I'd like to call this meeting of August 20th, 2018 order. And having Pastor Jim Rudolph, General Baptist Church.
Let's pray. God, we praise you for the day. We praise you for the blessings of the day. We thank you for the freedom that we enjoy and for a government that represents us. And Lord, we ask that as we are gathered, that you would just grant wisdom, insight, direction to this meeting, and that you would guide it, that what takes place here would bring glory and honor to you, that it would further your kingdom and your purposes for not only Cape Girardeau, but for each individual that is represented. So, Lord, we ask that you would bless, that you would direct, and you would have your way. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. We've got a big crowd here tonight for a good reason. We have a few presentations this evening, and we're going to go right down the agenda. The first being the Arts Council Children's presentation. Miss Sarah? Sarah Steffens, thank you.
Thank you. So hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Steffens, and I am the Director for the Arts Council of Southeast Missouri. Families, students, and myself are here to present to you, the City Council and Mayor Fox, 9 pieces of talented children's artwork from the 18th Annual Children's Art Festival. We are ecstatic to have the following art pieces to be displayed in this year's chamber for the entire year. Introduced in the year 2000, the Children's Art Festival was developed as a way to showcase what local arts teachers and their students are doing in their classroom. Arts educators and organizations believe that this artwork will serve as a reminder that the arts are an instrumental part of a child's development process, and funding for arts programs is important. The facts are students engaged in the arts learning have higher GPAs and standardized test scores and lower dropout rates. 88% of Americans believe that arts are part of a well-rounded K-12 education. With these facts, we hope to continue this relationship with the City Council for years to come. Now I'll start calling students by their name to proudly present their artwork to the City Council members. So would actually Lily Sparks from Alton Estrada please come up to the stage here? All right, and can you please pick up your piece for me? And if you could show it to the City Council members for me, display it loud and proud.
Yay.
And what is your piece called, Lily? Crystal Cassette. And what is the piece about exactly? What was your inspiration for it?
You're 19 something.
Mm-hmm. Anything specific?
Well, I used to listen to this type of music.
Mhm.
It was sort of like a piano or something.
Sure.
And it reminds me of Crystal Cave.
Absolutely. That's a great
I need
connection
it.
there.
Dang.
Do you want to show it to the crowd real quick? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Lily. Thank you, ma'am. All right, next up, we have Luna Rish. Would you please come up here? You go pick up your frame. And go ahead and show it to the city council. All right, it's very pretty. It has a lot of great colors. And what's it called? Flower Power? Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Lily. And if you could go ahead and show it to the crowd. All right. Thank you so much, Luna. And would Miss Juliana Rust come up here, please? There you go. And get your piece black and blue. Yeah, and show it up to the city council. And what is this of?
It's a picture of an iris, well, two irises. We were looking at photographs of flowers in our class, and I just looked at it and thought, I kind of have to draw this.
No, perfect. And is that like a favorite flower of yours?
No, not really. I think I actually have an allergy on the flower, but it still works.
Perfect. Go ahead and show it to your council for me. And then what the last student we have here present is Jolie Mullen. And would Josie please come up here and pick your piece? Awesome. And what is it called?
Sunset
At sea. And I like the boat and the colors there. What made you decide to draw the ship? Sailboat?
our teacher.
Is that watercolor? Excellent. Look at that blending. That is great. Thank you so much.
Beautiful
And
watercolor.
then would you go ahead and show it to the audience too? Thank you so much, Josie. And then to definitely show acknowledgement for the students who weren't able to make it tonight, we have Eli Warren with Night Hunter. Little piece right up here.
Fox.
And then we have Sunset by Anata Roberts. We have a very patriotic piece, Flag by Polly Gonzalez. And then we kind of have an art piece, but a poem actually, a portrait by Anna Albertson. That's great right here.
Good.
And then we have a third piece, Lily by Casey Savannah. I'd just like to give acknowledgement to the public school teachers that were participated in this. City Council presentation was Andrea Snyder, Holly Cochran, Jordan Kern, Cynthia Hefner, Christina Martinez, Megan Brock, Lisa Cooper, Vicki Rains, and Patty Beard. And that concludes this presentation. And if we could all get a group picture of your students who are here, okay? Group picture. Oh, do you have somebody that is coming? What's your name? Nada Robbins. Will you go pick up your piece again? Just presented it.
Yeah, if everybody, if you all can pick up your artwork again, that'd be great for the photo. Guys, you ready?
Scrunch in.
Yeah. There we go. I'll take a few, okay? Smiling.
Oh, I think Robbie wants to get a piece real quick. Oh, picture. Great. Thank you folks so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. I might add, this artwork will be on display over here in the city council chambers
For an entire year.
for an entire year.
Mhm, mhm.
So we're very proud of them and thank you.
Thank you guys so much. You guys did a great job. Excellent work.
And I think I now have a proclamation recognizing the anniversary of the Prince Hall Masons of Harmony Lodge number 40. You all want to come up here? I'll read the proclamation first and then let one of you gentlemen be a spokesperson if you want to. What's up? Wade? You doing all right? Good. Here's the proclamation. Whereas the Prince Hall Masons of Missouri FM Harmony Lodge number 40, dedicated on August 20th, 1880, have upheld the principles of brotherhood and charity in Cape Girardeau, celebrate 138 years of service to the flag. And whereas the Prince Hall Masons of Harmony Lodge number 40, charitable organization that serves the Cape Girardeau community by providing assistance and support to children in need through the Urban Kids Project, Royal Boy Scout Troops, Emo Elite Basketball Team, and local scholarship program. And whereas the members of Prince Hall Masons of Harmony Lodge number 40 strive to support our community by contributing to the well-being and quality of life for all citizens. Pledging to help keep Cape Girardeau clean, they have adopted 1507 South Spring Street to Highway 74 with your participation in the Adopt a Street program. Whereas Prince Hall Masons of Harmony Lodge number 40 are committed, invested in the cultural, social, religious, and economic development and stability of our community. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Paul Fox, Mayor of the City of Cape Girardeau, do hereby proclaim August 20th, 2018 as Prince Hall Masons of Harmony Lodge number 40 Day. And I do hereby encourage all of our citizens to recognize the Prince Hall Masons of Harmony Lodge number 40 for the impact they have made and continue to make in our community. Thank you, gentlemen.
First of all, giving honor to God, which is the head of all our lives. It's an honor and pleasure to be here today. I'm District Deputy Grandmaster of the state of Missouri. And bring you greetings from the most wishful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Missouri in this jurisdiction, where our wishful master is Michael Morris. And we would just like to say thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mr. Fox. And thank each and every one of you all in the community for allowing us this opportunity to come forward and to do work for the city. And we just want to leave with y'all that we're here for y'all. If y'all ever need us, just get a hold of one of us, and we'll be glad to participate in any activity that the city is putting on. And again, we would just like to thank you all for honoring us in this, on this day.
You're welcome. Thank you for what you do. And we got a little presentation. Mr. Cook. Can't believe you're gonna retire. Couple of years, 41 years. Yeah, I've got a little thing to read here so I don't forget any of this. Steve Cook is a prime example of climbing up through the ranks. He started as a long-haired, bell-bottom-wearing wastewater plant lab technician back on April 18th of 1977. He will retire as director of our Public Works Department on September 1st this year. That's 41 years plus. You got any pictures of those bell-bottom jeans and that long hair? Yeah, they're up. Good. I think we need to have a picture of that in perpetuity, don't you think? He held 5 different positions while at the wastewater plant. In 1994, he moved to the Public Works building as Environmental Services Coordinator. This position expanded his responsibilities to include management of the stormwater, sewer line maintenance, and solid waste divisions, as well as wastewater. He was promoted to Assistant Public Works Director in 2004 and Public Works Director for 2015. Taken an active part in many professional organizations. He held 2 offices in the southeast section of the Missouri Water and Wastewater Conference and currently serves on the Solid Waste Management District Board. In addition, he has established a good working relationship with DNR. Gotta have that. Steve's work has earned many awards and recognition from various professional agencies. There have been a lot of changes in public works during Steve's tenure. 41 years, I imagine there's been a lot of change. Good. Recent achievements include the completion of the solid waste transfer station and new wastewater plant. Other improvements include the implementation of automated trucks for solid waste recycling and leaf pickup. He has a wealth of historical information. If it happened in the last 41 years, he was probably involved or at least knew about it. He's a very dedicated man, has spent a lot of nights at Public Works or the wastewater plant. During severe river floods, he and others had to get to the plant by boat because it was surrounded by water. 1993 is a prime example of that. One of Steve's best qualities is his caring nature. He is well respected by both the public and his co-workers. He has received many compliments from residents thanking him for his help. It's a genuine desire to solve problems and takes a personal interest in all Public Works employees. We will miss his caring personality, his historical knowledge, and yes, even these hunting stories. Good luck in your travels and visits to your grandkids, and thanks. And now I've got I got something else you can put on your wall. In appreciation and recognition of over 41 years of loyal and faithful service to the city of Cape Girardeau, presented this 20th day of August, 2018 by the city of Cape Girardeau in the honor of the retirement of Stephen R. Cook, service to the Public Works Department, April 18, 1977 to August 31st, 2018.
I'm gonna tell you a story. I got adding up the other day. I think it's 7 mayors, 6 city managers. I didn't count council members. There's been a bunch of great people to work with. City has a great management staff and a great bunch of employees. Do a lot of good work and a lot of hard work. Had a lot of fun projects, had some big projects, wastewater treatment plants, transfer station. When we took over, the levee downtown, there's been a lot of changes in 40 years, but they've been good for Cape Girardeau. Yeah, I'll write off. Thank you.
41 years is a long time.
City doesn't work without city works. Public
No, they
works.
don't.
All right, thank you.
Denise Lincoln and Dr. Stephen Hoffman have a
I'm Denise
proposal for
Lincoln, citizen of Cape Girardeau, 1612 North Henderson. A year and 2 months ago, we were together and with City Council's deeming it so, the courthouse square reverted to Ivers Square. And the interpretation of an inclusive history is our next chapter to get that interpreted a little bit better. Ivers Square has become part of our city lexicon. I think people now kind of know where it is and what we're talking about. And so it's become part of us, but the story of it has not. And so that interpretation is still a piece to come. This is the oldest picture of the courthouse that has been surfaced. It came into public knowledge about 1909, but I believe the picture probably dates from 1880, 1890, somewhere in there. It shows the courthouse and the approach that most of us take, Lorimer Street. We can avoid the steps. But it shows the courthouse square at a different place. The building on the left was a jail, the calaboose. The building on the right was the market house. It was the farmers market of the day. Farmers, housewives, gardeners came to trade and sell. But the painful part of our history is that human beings were also sold at that very location. Just to the north of that building, closer to the sidewalk there, was, according to Judith Crow, an auction block. And when it was time for slave sales, that's also the marketplace that painful history unfolded. When the picture surfaced in 1909, the market house was already torn down. Plans were in place to redevelop that land. In 1922, the Carnegie Public Library came. And Judith commemorates that as moving to the idea market. So we have a new idea for the idea market as well. This is the setting today. Obviously, you see the Carnegie Library there, almost exactly in the same place as the Market House. The annex that was added to that building in the mid-20th century. The calaboose, the jail, is gone, and in its place stands the monument and fountain pedestal to the Union soldier. You can see the band shell in the background and other monuments that have become the monument row of our city. Two of those monuments commemorate the Civil War history, which is very much part of the shaping of who we are then, who we were then, who we are now. The first was the fountain that was placed in 1911. The Confederate statue was placed in 1931, but it was on the approach to the bridge. It was moved to the side of what is now Ivor Square in the mid-1990s. It was originally erected by the Daughters of the Confederacy. The other statue was put together by what was called then the Women's Relief Corps. In trying to understand the history and represent it correctly, I traveled to Helena, Arkansas last year after we named it Ivor Square, and I knew that the interpretation piece was yet to come. The first 75 men that enlisted, men of color who enlisted here in Cape Girardeau, were members of the 56th United States Colored Troop. And they spent all 3 years of their enlistment in Helena, Arkansas. I wanted to go there. I wanted to see what it was and how they've interpreted their Civil War history. One of the places in Helena is called Freedom Park. And one of the first things you encounter when you enter Freedom Park is this amazing statue. You walk up and see the articulation of it, the realistic nature of it. You see the veins in his hands. You see the smooth leather of his cartridge bag. You see the bulges in his kip bag. You see the scars on his canteen. You wonder what he carried in his cup. His boots probably are not as worn as they would have been after he's been on an expedition, but you walk up to the man and it's articulated with such clarity. You just see and feel the strength, the courage, the resolve of what it meant to be a man of color, an enslaved man who took what little freedom the country was willing to give him to enlist in United States Colored Troop service, not knowing what the future will be, but trying to fight for a freedom that was not yet extended to him or his family. I waited to see him breathe. This statue actually was the second casting. The original casting was commissioned by the Veterans Administration for placement at the Nashville National Cemetery. It was commissioned in 2006. It's considered a national monument. The artist was Roy Butler. When I was in Helena, I was so taken by that statue that I met that just said the story and made me want to know more. I understood it was fashioned by Roy Butler. I made contact with Roy. He told me that the Helena statue was the second rendering. When he was commissioned by the Veterans Administration, they gave him rights to 5 additional castings. He's made the Helena casting, which was one, and In talking with Foundry, there's only one casting that can be made. Again, the age of the molds. So in negotiating with Roy, if we were to place this in our city, this would be the final casting of the statue. It would be registered with the Inventory of American Painting and Sculptures with the Smithsonian Museum. As I said, it's a limited and final casting of this work of art. The entire project is about $60,000 from the paying for the statue, the pedestal, and foundation and other incidentals that will come to installing it and placing it at Ivor Square. This was not phased into the plan for the renovation of Ivor Square that Marla and Old Town Cape successfully won. The city won it. We all voted to get that grant. This is incidental to that, so it's over and above. But Roy Butler came to Cape Girardeau. We walked the yard in April and envisioned where we might place this. And we saw that stone wall that is there at what has been until last week the annex, and felt that was a perfect framing for the statue. Now this is an artist rendering. I haven't put it there. Don't get upset yet. But we felt like that would adequately frame it, and then with plantings would protect the statue as well. So each generation, the early 1900s, the 1930s, all put their markers in the yard, telling their part of the story. The neglected part of the story is the significance and the contribution of our population of color and the extraordinary sacrifice that they made to fight for freedom for our country, the preservation of the United States, but also their own freedom. And I think it's time to tell the rest of the story. And I'm recommending that the statue tells it in a way that a marker board would not even come close to, although marker boards will be included, but the statue is of its own.
And so part of the process, as you know, for public art in the city is to put forward an application to the Public Art Committee. And so we did that. And our understanding is that they've approved that and recommended that the city basically accept this. So we're at the very beginning of fundraising for this. And so when we obtain the funds and get it installed and according to the proper specifications and all of that, that the city, we're requesting that the city then take ownership for it. We've made an arrangement with Old Town Cape to kind of receive the funds as part of the larger project. And so then once we have the money, Old Town Cape would pay for it and essentially donate it to the city kind of as an immediate thing. We are working toward a dedication date in June, Juneteenth. Not exactly sure which day for Juneteenth, but and that would be 156 years after Mr. Ivers and his compatriots walked into that building and signed up to be United States colored troops. And so we're really excited about this and are looking forward to the participation of the city in this and of course the community as a whole as we begin our fundraising efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Great project.
questions?
Any questions, anybody? Marla's walking up there. Does she have
Yeah.
anything to say?
I am. I just want to put something in context, and as Dr. Hoffman mentioned, the Public Art Committee did review this and has, overwhelmingly said, this is a piece that we would love to see here. We would like the council to go ahead and accept the donation of this so that as soon as we pay for it, the transference of ownership can go from the artist straight to the city without anyone in between. So that's in place ahead of time. And so that's really what we're all asking for tonight. I just kind of wanted to make that clear.
All right.
Yeah, with
Thank you.
council's consent, we will prepare a resolution doing that in upcoming meetings. So don't hear any dissents, so I assume there's
that consent is there to officially accept it by resolution.
Thank you for all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott told me about it. Really exciting.
We'll go on the agenda, communications and reports. First of all, City Council. Dan, do you have something?
Yeah. So just from the system, some communications I want to report. Recently, I attended the Parks and Recreation Department Advisory Board meeting. They will be hosting they're actually celebrating the successes of PSR 1 projects. They're actually completing and finalizing some of the last remaining PSR 1 projects. So on August 30th at 11:30 a.m., they're going to have a hot dog lunch, end of summer barbecue, and a success celebration. So if anybody would like to attend, that's going to be, now I'm blanking on the actual location for it, but Arena Park, there we go. Yep, at Arena Park. So at 11:30 on the 30th, if anybody would like to join, that's a great celebration of just how effective a lot of our city staff are whenever it comes to getting these projects completed. So that's fantastic.
Great.
Additionally, I had the opportunity to go to a Red Star Neighborhood Development Initiative meeting last week. It's always great to be able to talk to your neighbors and hear what's going on, hear their concerns and their questions. And in the Red Star neighborhood, there are a lot of concerns and questions, especially whenever it comes to the flood buyout area, some homes that have been neglected, some properties that aren't taken care of and have been harboring homeless. So there's a lot of issues kind of that are being discussed at those meetings.
Are some of those on the nuisance list?
There are some of them kind of on the chronic nuisance list. Luckily, after each meeting, I get to add more to the chronic nuisance list. So it's a good thing to know.
Okay, that is a good thing. If properties are abandoned and in disrepair, we need to address it and take care of them, not just let them sit there.
Absolutely.
Not just in Red Star, but everywhere.
Any part of the city that's got properties, and I always encourage everybody at Red Star meetings to make sure that whenever they do see an abandoned property or they see any type of issues going on at any type of property, for them to contact the police, because that's always the first line of defense, the best line of defense whenever it comes for a citizen that sees something. We want you to say something, and we want you guys to always contact the police department.
It is true. Anything else? Ryan?
Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to throw out there, August 31st is International Overdose Awareness Day. And I bring this up, one, because of some of my day-to-day work, but also last week, the statistics were released for 2017. And there were 72,000 overdose deaths in the United States in 2017. That's up about 10% over 2016. And I think that our first responders, fire, police do a good job of responding. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. There are some activities that are going to be going on throughout the city. I don't know all the specifics just yet. They're still coming together, but yeah, I just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to mention that about last Saturday, that the Prince Hall Basins and Soulful Harvest, they each had a back to school supplies for the kids, and it was really wonderful. I got a chance to work with the Masons on that day, pass out gifts, and it was very successful. I would like to say thank you to them that they left, and thank you because he's a member so far. And it was a really successful moment, and it was a lot of people there. We had a good time.
Good.
Kids got.
I'd like to once again remind the public that on September the 6th at the Eagles Hall between 9 in the morning and 12, the seniors and lawmen together will be meeting for a senior information day. There are a lot of providers who work with seniors who come there and set up their booths. And there will also be a presentation by the Secretary of State's office for seniors. And there will also be, I've been told, Jackson Police Department has an officer who's going to be doing an active shooter training module during this meeting. And Chief, you got anything to add to that?
No, it's every year. It's a great turnout and always a good time for the seniors. We look forward to it.
So that's September the 6th at Eagles Hall, 9 in the morning till noon. And they provide free lunch for the seniors, by the way. Good Eagles fried chicken. Good. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Since the last meeting, I attended the Chamber Grow Strong Group meeting again, and Scott and I both gave a presentation on what's going on in the city and what we look for this next year. The Aquatics Committee had another meeting, and we went through the process for hiring a consultant, which everybody always has strong feelings about. Why would you need a consultant? Why would you need a consultant? And I will tell you that none of us in the city or on that committee especially have any expertise in what it takes to design and build and run an aquatic center. And you got to have expertise, just like if when you build a police station, we can't build that police station without help from somebody who's done it before and knows all the ins and outs of the whole process. So they're worth every penny that you spend to get what's necessary and what will fulfill what we want in our city of Cape Girardeau. We've gone through the process of looking at our hope, what goes on at our pool and when, all the activities and all the people that use it. We've gone through the budget, what it's, the money that we spend, the money we take in, and all this information be given to the consultant so he can look at what do we need, what do we want, what do we desire. And it's just a starting process, but I think it's going very well. Julia, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that consulting can provide some outside expertise, some unbiased thoughts for the committee, the council and school board to consider. So I think it's very valuable. I look forward to seeing the submittals. We'll get those over this week, and next week the committee will review them.
I'm looking forward to it. Also attended the SIMPO board meeting with Scott. They had a presentation on the design of the new interstate interchange at exit 99 between Cape and Jackson. And there were a lot of questions about that, but it was a very good presentation, and it will begin 2019 and probably take a year and a half, 2 years to get totally finished. The intersection, both north and south on 55 and east and west on 61, will remain open during the whole process, although you're going to be limited. So we know that traffic's going to pick up in other places coming into Cape on any way they can get here, on
102 and
102 and William and 74 and maybe even using Veterans Memorial Drive and coming down the Hopper Road. Any way they can get here to avoid the log jam of traffic that will be at that intersection for a while. So it's another instance of just being patient, and it will happen, and it will really spur development at that interchange. One other big thing that's happening is they're going to repave Kings Highway through the city. Most of that work will occur at night, I understand. They're going to start from, I think, the south and the north, and it looks like they're doing some in both directions. But they'll run all the way through Jackson, through Cape, all the way south to 55. So it's a big project, and it's a very, very well-traveled thoroughfare that, again, will be kind of a headache while it's going on, but You have to look at the end result, just like when we did Lexington. It's, the finished product is well worth the wait. So I hope everybody's patient with that. I don't think I had anything else. I wanted to say, congratulations to a couple of people that now aren't here, so we'll have to do that later. Bruce, I want to tell you that I took my first flight on SkyWest Thursday, came back Sunday night. Thursday flight was a direct flight, and we were up there and on the ground before you knew what happened. On the way back, we did do the one that came in Sunday night. We stopped in Quincy. We were there on the ground 15 minutes. About half the people got off in Quincy and the other half came to Cape. We had, 35 or so on Thursday going up, and we had at least that many leaving Chicago, half of which got off in Quincy. So it was very, very, very good experience. I heard nothing but compliments from anybody who was on the flight. So I wanted to let you know that. And while I was in Chicago, I spent 2 days watching the Air and Water Show, and fantastic air show, and just made me look forward. We've got some friends we visited in Chicago who are now going to come back to Cape in May of 2019 to see the air show here. So
I do have graphs for last month. If you could hand them out or
that's fine. Yep, go ahead.
And Bruce, we'll talk about my experience offline.
Thanks, Bruce.
Choppy weather or what?
Obviously, if you look at the graph,
My flight experience.
The August numbers are projections based on day of the month, what they were going.
That's fantastic.
It's going in the right direction.
To go from 357 in January to maybe 967 in August that's unbelievable.
We actually are hoping that revenue and non-rev passengers this month will be over 1,000.
Good. Great. That's the end of my report. Scott?
Just a couple of things. Wanted to recognize from Alliance Water, Tim Garrity's here. Tim has been promoted. He's been our regional rep, but he's been promoted to the president of the company. So wanted to recognize that and thank him for his service, and congratulations. Brian's here too. I guess Ron Smith, our new regional, is not here. He had to go back. That's right. But you'll see a new face, and you might see Tim at MML a few places. But we wanted to recognize his work, and I think great things are ahead for them. He's got going to be a great leader for them, and congratulations again. Todd Fulton was the Victor Weir Award winner, and I don't know if he's not here tonight, but certainly want to recognize.
He was here earlier.
He was here earlier,
Yeah.
and that's one of the ones you were going to recognize, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And lastly, just want to say to Steve, because Steve said there's been a lot of progress for the city. Well, you've been a big part of that, Steve, and it's been a big part of your vision, direction, and work to be a part of it. So thank you again for that. And I believe that's all I have.
Okay. We'll get on to items for discussion of the P&Z report. Mr. Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on August the 8th. We had a relatively light agenda that evening. We had two subdivision plats, which were both recommended for approval. The first is Shaley Grounds subdivision plat, which is over in the subdivision across the street from LaCroix United Methodist Church. Basically, they're just taking a duplex and dividing one lot into two lots and getting rid of the common ground. The other was the Humane Society subdivision record plat. They have two lots that they are going to combine into one lot and place a structure on that lot. We recommended both of those for approval. The only other item on our agenda was that we recommended approval of changes to section city code, zoning set code, section 30-105, mainly definitions that were in the correction, or I'm sorry, in the amendments to that code. Deals a little bit with animal feeding operations, changing the definition so that it meets the definition that EPA uses for those types of organizations. And then the rest of it was really just cleanup language within the section. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody got any questions? You like those short agendas, don't you?
I do. If I can get school board agendas that short, it'd be perfect.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. The chief.
Good evening.
Evening.
Congratulations again to Steve. 1977. I was in first grade learning to read Dick and Jane books. So you've been working as long as I've been reading, so congratulations. I just kind of want to update y'all a little bit. I know a few weeks ago I sent y'all our mid-year crime stats, but I'll kind of just recap some of the highlights of those. Back at the beginning of the year, we all acknowledged that last year we had a pretty difficult year with our gun violence crimes and violent crimes in general. And they were really trending a lot higher than any of us would like to see them. So I'm happy to report that through the mid-year, we've actually seen a pretty dramatic reduction in firearm crimes and violent crimes in general. Just to recap a few, our robberies by firearms are down by 38%. Then our assaults with firearms are down by 31%, and then our assaults with knives are down by 71%. So right now, overall, we're seeing in total crime across Cape Girardeau about an 8% decrease from what we had this time last year. So we're hoping those positive trends will continue. One of the areas that is concerned that we've seen an increase in, 66% increase, is in our homicides. And that's concerning to us. But I kind of wanted to recap what our homicides were. They've had a little bit of a different nature or ring to them this year than what we've seen in past years as well. Back in February, we had a gentleman shot inside an apartment that we believe was a dispute over video games. With such a senseless loss of life, but we actually were able to make arrest on that one pretty quickly. Then March was a pretty difficult month for Cape Girardeau. We had an infant shot while being held in the arms of a woman. It was a brother and sister dispute, and he had intended to shoot the sister and shot the infant instead. And then the very next day, we had an infant that was mauled by a dog here in the city. And so you might be wondering, well, why is that considered a homicide? We actually made an arrest on the babysitter and charged them with negligent homicide. So that puts that into our statistical category of a homicide. And then later that month in March, we had two gentlemen shoot each other. We believe it was a dispute over narcotics, but of course they both shot each other, so we couldn't really question either one of them on that, but some of the witnesses led us to believe that that was the case. And then, although not in the first mid-year, but we also had a shooting inside Hardee's, which was a dispute over a familial dispute. And so while all of those are very, very concerning, and we always mourn the loss of life, we never want to see that. It does speak to a trend away from what we've seen in past years, where it's been primarily narcotics related or that type of a crime. So while those are horrible things, it's encouraging to us that we're not seeing those random on the street type of violent crime acts this year that we've seen in the past. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. I'm going to take credit for all of them. That's what I'm supposed to do, right?
Right.
No, it's. I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. One is our street crimes task force. We've operated 5 times this year, either here in our city or Charleston or Sykeston or Poplar Bluff. But even when we're operating in those cities, it has an impact on ours because we're seeing the same criminals everywhere. So they may run down there and hide, and then we'll go down there and catch them. So we've had some pretty good success with that. Not so much success with the helicopter, Councilman Guard, I'm sorry. But we are having success on the ground, and we have a few more planned for this summer. We've been doing more directed patrols. Missouri Highway Patrol has been in town helping us quite a bit with those during some of our busier times. One of the other things that we've done is we've employed what we call a power shift, where we have a couple of officers that are working. We've taken them off their regular patrol shifts and just put them in our very busy times. And a lot of that is attributable to our crime analysis, who was able to kind of go and look at our data and see, all right, when are our really busy times and how can we deploy those resources a little bit better? And so they've been out there really looking for gun crimes, things like that, and been able to knock a lot of that down for us as well. And then every weekend through the summer, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a different commander, a different person of our command staff has been working evening and night patrol with the officers. And that serves a couple of purposes. One is it gives us in the command level a little bit of a on the grounds overview of what's really going on. So then when we're strategizing Monday morning, we've got some really good insight because we've been out there and do it as well. The other benefit of that is it's also a really great morale booster for our officers to see chiefs and assistant chiefs and lieutenants out there working patrol, even though they're probably having to clean up messes that we create, but at least they see us out there. And then the other is, honestly, we're all police officers, and at the end of the day, if we have a big event that requires a full police department response, we're going to have to go anyway, so it keeps our skills sharp as well. So it's been a great program for us to do throughout the summer, and even my lieutenants and assistant chiefs that have done it, I thought I would get a little pushback, but they've come back and talked about how much fun it was to be out there and be a cop again. So it's been a pretty good program for us, and it sends a message to the community as well that we're taking this crime so seriously that we're going to put our top brass out there on the streets during our busy times. Another thing I think that's really helped us a lot is, and I spoke about this earlier in the year, that the federal government was really interested in stepping in and helping us with prosecutions, and they have. They've made some pretty good big cases, and I think that sends a very clear message that they're putting people away for a lot longer than what we can get historically in a state prosecution. Every shooting that we have in town, whether it's just a shots fired call, if we get shell casings or something like that, or if we arrest somebody, like I'm sure everybody saw in the news last week, we had a shooting. Nobody was hit, but we quickly arrested a suspect at McDonald's. We turn all those cases over to the federal government, to ATF, and say, hey, can you look at this? Can you get some federal charges on this for us? And they've been very helpful in a lot of those cases, getting felons in possession of gun cases for us that they'll try federally. And that puts people in prison for a lot longer than what we can get on a state charge normally. And so that's been very beneficial. With the recent election and a new prosecutor that's coming into office, he's committed to continue that trend. So I think that we'll continue to see some really good positive results with that. So those are the kind of things I think that have led to the drop in our violent crime, plus just people are reporting more. And that kind of goes into the next part of what I kind of wanted to brief y'all on a little bit is, community engagement has been a very big, important thing for us, and it continues to be. We continue our Coffee with Cops programs. We continue our roll calls and getting out there and engaging with the community because people are talking to us, and that's important. And we can't let that slide. Just because we've had a good first 6 months of the year doesn't mean that we slack off and stop engaging with the community. We've got to continue to do that, and so we will. One of the things that we just recently implemented this last week is what we like to call WOW. I did not come up with that on my own. In fact, I didn't even like the term at first, but it's our Watch on Wheels program, where we've partnered with CTA. And in the last week, we've trained all of their drivers on how to be better eyes out on the street and be what I keep referring it to is our rolling neighborhood crime watch. It's basically a crime watch that we put on wheels with, at times they may have up to 50 drivers out on the street during some of their peak times. It just gives us an extra set of eyes and ears on the street. And the drivers were extremely receptive to the program. They really liked that we trained them on, hey, here are just some things that we look for. And if you see a crime, report it to us. We're not asking them to get involved. In fact, we were very, very emphatic that we don't want you to get out there. We don't want vigilantes or anything like that. And they were pretty relieved about that. But the flip side of that is our dispatchers, if we're working a big case or anything that we're looking for a vehicle or a person of interest at any particular time, and I keep using the example of, say, we have a hit and run. We can push that information out to their dispatchers and say, we're looking for this white Buick that was just in a hit and run on West End. And they'll push that information out to their drivers. And so if their drivers see that vehicle, they'll immediately call us and report that back to us. So it's a two-way street, and we're pretty excited about getting that off the ground and get rolling on that. So great program. I think we'll see some good results from that. Also, as far as partnerships, we've partnered with the Safe House. You've probably heard me say ad nauseum every time we're talking about our building that we have a community room and it's really for the community to use. Well, Jessica Hill at the Safe House took us up on that and said, I want to use it one night a week, every week for Batterers Intervention Program, which is a program that domestic violence abusers are required to go to through their probation and parole office. And there was really no one in Cape that was offering that service. Well, the Safe House for Women got a grant to offer that service, but they obviously didn't want to have that at their office because then they've got victims sometimes coming in their office and just that cross traffic, not a good idea. So we agreed to partner with them. They're using our community room once a week now to offer that program. And so we're really happy to actually have that space and have such a needed service be performed right there. That's really not even our service, but we were able to partner with them and give them the space for it. One of the other things that we have pledged to do is, as we know, mental health is such a large issue in not just our community, but in our nation. The International Association of Chiefs of Police has what they call a One Mind campaign. And we took the One Mind campaign pledge last year. And part of that pledge is there's 4 prongs to that pledge. And one is that you have a policy on dealing with mental health issues, which you'd be surprised there are a lot of police departments who don't, even in this day and age, which we have. That you have a partnership with a social service provider that works with mental health, which we do. We partner with community counseling. In fact, we have one of their counselors in our office, it seems like daily, that's helping us do assessments on people. Another part of it is that you provide 100% of your officers become what's called mental health first aid officers. And we're working on that. We don't have that one totally. And the other is that you have 20% of your officers have what's called crisis intervention training, which includes the mental health first aid. Well, we're 75% of our patrol officers have gone through crisis intervention training now, and we're continuing to get there. And we thought we don't really want to stop with just the first aid thing. We want to get all of our people crisis intervention trained. So we're at 75% of the patrol division right now having that. There's about 400 agencies in the United States that have taken this pledge. Hopefully that'll go higher, about 10 in the state of Missouri. So we're pretty proud to be part of that 10 that are doing that and trying to make a difference in the lives of people who are suffering mental health and not make it a jail thing that we're doing for them, but actually trying to get them some help and get them back on the right track. And the last thing I have for you is body cameras. We are going through training this week and training and installation this week and next week on those. And by installation, in our patrol cars, there'll be triggers that will actually trigger when that body camera comes on. If lights are on, the car door opens, then that officer doesn't have to think about turning their camera on. It'll automatically come on for them. So we're working on getting those installed with the help of our Public Works Department. I think their guys are being trained this week on how to do those installations. And then we'll be doing some training in-house with our officers, and those should be on the street the first or second week of September, all going well, which we think it will. We've been pretty diligent every step of the way on getting those rolled out and developed and implemented. So we're real excited to get those out on the street as well. And that's what I have, unless you have some questions.
I have one, and that is, so we hear a lot of rumor about, and you read in the paper, are a lot of these violent crimes, are they actually residents for the most part, as you're seeing? It seems like we get a lot from that are not from around here.
It's a mixed bag. In the shootings that we've had this year alone, one of the shooting in the apartment where the 2 gentlemen shot each other, one was a resident, one was from St. Louis. The shooting that we had at Hardee's last week, one was the suspect was a resident, but the victim was from, I believe, Ohio. But yeah, we do have a lot of traffic that flows in, kind of starts up in the Chicago area and then flows down through Charleston, Sykeston, Poplar Bluff, and then up into our area. And then we get a lot of St. Louis traffic that comes through. So it's a mixed bag of that. But a lot of it is transient. So they might be a resident, but they haven't been here that long, or they might not be a resident. So.
I'm glad that the trends are, I mean, we know we're not where we need to be, but the trend, the wow, I think, those are good signs. I had talked to Scott about, if this program was good, is this something that we could train the rest of city staff on? You know, I use the example of the piece of trash that was sitting there that, you know, it's not just the responsibility of Public Works. And crime isn't just the responsibility of police. It's all of us. And so if this program turns out to be a success, you know, maybe it's something that we do with all departments.
And you're exactly right. And Scott and I had that conversation this week, and I was going to let Stan get settled in a little bit. Oh, he's gone. So yes, Public Works is going to be partnering with us on that. Since he's gone, but those are great ideas. Training some of our people that are actually out and about all the time on what to spot. And you know, for us as cops, it's almost no brainer because it's second nature to us, and we sometimes forget that your average citizen may not pick up on the different clues. So it's really good to do that. And actually, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the university for assisting us with that. I have a college student in my house working on her master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology, which don't ask me to explain what that is. I don't really know, but it's the psychology of the workplace. And I was explaining to her, hey, this program I heard about, here's something I'd like to do. So we're looking for projects to develop things and develop programs and like that. So they developed all of our training for us on that, and then actually helped us present the training. So I say it's a partnership with us and CTA, but it was actually a threefold partnership with us, the university, and CTA to make it a possibility.
Well, I understand that's the first time in the state of Missouri there's been a Watch on Wheels program, and I think that's,
it is. Yes.
That's super duper. I mean, you got a lot of neighborhood watch areas, but most people in neighborhood watches are sitting in their homes and they're not generally out. But people that are out on the streets are the ones who are going to see something wrong or something just not right. Something just looks a little weird about that car or what that person's doing. And I would hope that besides just, you know, our transit drivers, that we could talk maybe the taxi companies and they're training their drivers, and maybe cargo, who we did not get a good start in our relationship with. But I would hope that they would also see the impetus to get the community involvement with stopping crime, and maybe we can get them involved and have their drivers trained. And you'll have people all over the city looking for things that just are not right. And that's just a community effort. Thanks.
It takes all of us.
It does.
I was just going to toss this out there. You know, a lot of times whenever I talk to people, and actually some of the people I've been speaking with the most often, they do not feel as though crime is down. Mostly I hear nothing but discussion from people that they think crime is up. What should I tell these folks? How should I let them rest assured that, that things are actually trending in a positive note?
I think one of the things is that we keep reiterating what our statistics are, because the statistics are the truth. It is that the crime is dropping, and we combat that all the time too. And this is certainly not a knock on our press partners, not a knock on Mark at all. I knock him privately quite a bit, but I won't do it publicly. But
fair enough.
But we're not going to see reports a whole lot that there's no crime, because that's not what people are turning on the news to see. I mean, they're going to see reports of here's a crime. And so every time that you see a report of a crime, it makes you think, oh, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And again, that's not a knock on our media partners. That's their job, is to report that. Those are the stories that get people's attention, that people want to pay attention to. So we've just got to be able to keep pushing out, hey, this is the truth. This is what our statistics are. And crime is going down. And it's one of the things that we try to do when we're having our community meetings and meeting with community partners. So to your question, what can you do? Share the statistics with people. Encourage them, if they want more information that maybe you can't answer, to contact us or our community relations folks, and then we can answer some of those questions for them. But yeah, when you see those stories, then the perception always is, oh, it's getting worse and worse and worse. But the facts aren't really bearing that out. It's actually trending downward right now.
What do we as a city do in order to get the reputation as being the toughest city on crime?
Well, and that's kind of a double-edged sword, because you'll see cities that have a reputation for being extremely, extremely tough on crime, and they have communities that won't speak to them. And so that's a problem. And then you have social injustice or perceptions of social injustice. So what you have to do as a police agency is you have to kind of thread that needle of, hey, we're a really welcoming, kind of caring police department, but if you step out of line, then we're going to hammer you for that too. And that's very few police departments hit that mark. You have some that are all the way over here on being really tough on crime, and then one incident will spark a riot because they don't have that relationship with the community. And then you have other agencies that you see that are very community inclusive and not so tough on crime, and their crime stats are through the roof. So one of the things that I think that we do really well at the Cape Girardeau Police Department, and by we, I mean my officers, is they thread that needle, I think, very well. We get a lot of good reports on how procedurally we're explaining to people, hey, here's why you're going to jail. Here's why we have to take this action against you. But they also understand that, yeah, we have to take that action against you. So I don't know that we would want to have the reputation of being a city that is 100%. If you mess up one little bit, we're gonna nail you to the wall. You want to have that type of reputation that's, hey, we're welcoming, but yeah, we're not going to put up with a whole lot of stuff either. So it's a difficult thing to do, but I think that we thread that needle pretty well.
I have a question. So you mentioned the narcotics related violent crime is down. And some of that's attributed to the increased work with the task force. Is that right?
Yes.
What are we doing additionally outside of task force work to continue to drive down the narcotics related violent crime, but also narcotics related petty crime?
So what we've done with that is up until last year, I had one officer that was assigned to the CMO Drug Task Force, which is a task force of several agencies together. We work crime all in this region, which pulls more resources together. And then I had one officer assigned to the Drug Enforcement Agency's task force. And this is not a knock against the Drug Enforcement Agency administration, but their focus is on long-term cartel type investigations, and we weren't really seeing a whole lot of benefit to us here locally for that. So we pulled that officer and put him on the CMO Drug Task Force. So that doubled our presence on that task force, which means we get a whole lot more benefit of that work being done here. And then we've also detailed one of our officers to the ATF, to the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Task Force, which is one of the reasons we get so much federal help with that, is because I have a police officer that is actually a federal agent now, and they can get some of those prosecutions for us. So those are kind of the things, we've looked at pulling back and just having our own narcotics officers, but narcotics don't stay just within the city. So we found that it's more beneficial for us to work within that task force environment. And that way we're collaboratively trying to hit it all from the region.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
And you'll look at, I think you'll see that some of our drug offenses have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
That's because we're making more arrests on drug offenses.
Well, yeah, I didn't take much to the increase in arrests, because if we're out there patrolling, and I mean, making arrests is a good thing in that fight. So yeah, I noted that, and I talked to Scott about it last week.
And that's one of the things with a crime like that, unless we're making arrests, you're not going to see an increase in that crime because it's not going
to be reported.
Yeah. So I welcome an increase in our drug offenses, because that means that our guys are out there hustling and doing something about it.
Okay.
Thanks, a great report, and it's good to hear some positive things, because that's generally not what you hear anywhere.
No, we like positive. We're going to try to keep doing it.
Good.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Chief.
Is there anybody here this evening to appear before the council for any item that's not on the agenda? For any item that's not on the agenda? If not, we'll move into our agenda review.
Very good. I have one public hearing tonight. It's a public hearing to consider vacating some easements at the Coyote Creek Estates. It's some easements that are no longer necessary, utility and drainage easements on that edge of that subdivision. It's also number 21 on your new ordinances. Our consent agenda tonight is first, number 3 is the second, third reading of the dumpster ordinance that we had regarding making sure that they're not overflowing those dumpsters and able to have enforcement with that. Second one, number 4, is the design build contract for Capitol Hall Field. Number 5 is the stop signs on Sunset Boulevard. And number 6 is a warranty deed for property that we purchased from River Edge Automotive in the flood buyout area. Number 7 is a easement from Drury Land Development for sanitary sewer repair. Number 8 is the Esquire Theater tax increment financing plan. Number 9 is the development agreement that goes with that plan. And number 10 is the record plat for Deerfield Estates Phase 1. So those are all second and third readings, things that were passed in the last meeting. Number 11 is a resolution then for a lease, T-hanger lease for Plaza Tire Service Alliance Services. They're moving their plane from the Commander hangar to the new T-hangars. Number 12 accepts public improvements at the roads Mount Auburn subdivision. And then 13 is rejection of all bids. So we, with Cardinal Glennon, we had an agreement with them in their new lease to put in some bunk rooms. And we thought that was going to cost less than $20,000. When we got the bids, it was like $54,000. So you can't sustain that with the increase. So we want to reject those bids and then look at some different options. The number 14 is an item that we already have removed from the consent agenda. I think last time I talked about the setting of the rates is always just a math problem. They take all the assessments and then they figure out what rate you have to get the same income. When we got the final assessments, we actually had to raise it another 0.0001, I believe. So we need to change that. So we'll need a motion to amend that item. We'll do that during the acceptance of the consent agenda, I guess.
We will do that on the item that is removed from.
Okay, we'll do a separate.
A separate item.
Okay, very good. So it'll be its own item then. But it is the second and third reading of that item. Remember, we had the hearing of that in last meeting. Are there any items you'd like to, other items you'd like to remove from the consent agenda, or items you need to declare on?
I need to abstain from 11 and 12 due to conflict of interest.
Financial relations. Any others? Okay. New ordinances. The number 15 is an ordinance we have to, on a regular basis, I think it's every 2 years, we have to pass the city code rating the conflicts of interest. This is by statute. We have to renew that every, I believe it's a couple of years. Number 16 is establishing no parking anytime along Clark Avenue. This is there right next to Broadway by Montgomery Bank. 17 is the state block agreement for the promotion funds for the air service. When Bruce reported last time, talked about how he hoped that was coming, and now it's here. So this is accepting that. This is the first reading of that. 18 will be the first reading of special warranty deed for some property that is sold to Mason Investments. 19 is the record plat for Shaley Grounds, the Patriot that Mr. Glenn talked about earlier. Number 20 is a record plat at the crossing at Hopper Road. And number 20 is from the public hearing, vacating that interest in the easements.
21.
Oh, sorry, 21. Yes, thank you. Anything else? That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, good. At that point, I'll have a call to order for our official meeting and have a roll call.
Mayor Fox?
Here.
Mr. Gunn?
Here.
Mr. Guard?
Here.
Mr. Essex?
Here.
Ms. Kinder? Here. Mr. Preston?
Here.
Ms. Moore?
Here.
I'll entertain a motion. We adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Guard. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Preston. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing. Public hearing to consider the city vacating interest in the northern 10-foot of a 20-foot wide utility and drainage easement along the south property lines of lots 10, 11, 16, and 17 in Coyote Creek Estates in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Is there anybody here to speak about this particular item in the public hearing? Nobody here? I'll close the public hearing. Anybody here to speak on any item that is on the agenda this evening? Don't everybody get up at once. Anybody here speak on any item that's on the agenda this evening? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Eric?
Number 18-101, an ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, regarding the collection of solid waste, and ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, regarding the collection of solid waste. Number 18-104, an ordinance authorizing city manager to negotiate a design-build contract for the design improvements to Kapaha Field in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and ordinance authorizing city manager to negotiate a design-build contract for the design and improvements to Kapaha Field in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 18-105, an ordinance amending Schedule C of Section 26-121 of the City Code by establishing a stop sign on South Sunset Boulevard in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance amending Schedule C of Section 26-121 of the City Code by establishing a stop sign on South Sunset Boulevard in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 18-106, an ordinance accepting a general warranty deed from the River's Edge Automotive LLC for property located at 1237 North Water Street in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance accepting a general warranty deed from the River's Edge Automotive LLC for property located at 1237 North Water Street in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 18-107, an ordinance accepting a temporary construction easement from Drury Land Development, Inc. for a sanitary sewer main repair in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance accepting a temporary construction easement from Drury Land Development, Inc. for a sanitary sewer main repair in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 18-112, an ordinance designating a portion of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri as a redevelopment area, approving the Esquire Theater tax increment financing redevelopment plan, making findings relating thereto, and authorizing certain actions by city officials. An ordinance designating a portion of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri as a redevelopment area, approving the Esquire Theater tax increment financing redevelopment plan, making findings related thereto, and authorizing certain actions by city officials. Number 18-111, an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan in connection with the Esquire Theater tax increment financing redevelopment plan, an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement in connection with the Esquire Theater tax increment financing redevelopment plan. Number 18-113, an ordinance approving the record plat of Deerfield Estates Phase 1, and ordinance approving the record plat of Deerfield Estates Phase 1. Number 18-122, a resolution authorizing city manager to execute a T-hanger lease agreement with Plaza Tire Service Alliance Services at the Cape Girardeau Regional Airport.
Items removed from the consent agenda, which is bill number 18-114.
Need to vote on the consent agenda.
Okay, wait,
Go ahead.
we separated that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made by Mr. Preston, second by Ms. Moore. Any discussion? And Mr. Guard is abstaining on 11 and 12. No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Now, item 18-114. An ordinance providing for the levying of the annual city revenue tax, public health tax, special business number 2 tax for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. An ordinance providing for the levying of the annual city revenue tax, public health tax, special business district number 2 tax for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019.
Moved as amended.
As amended.
So moved as amended. You can, that's all right. You can do it. Okay. I want to make sure.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Motion by Mr. Guard, second by Mr. Preston. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. New ordinances, 18-115, an ordinance updating and readopting sections 2-76 to 2-83 of the city code relating to conflicts of interest.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Essex. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Guard. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 18-116, an ordinance amending Schedule F of Section 26-247 of the City Code establishing no parking anytime along a portion of Clark Avenue in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Preston, second by Ms. Moore. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 18-117, an ordinance authorizing city manager to execute a state block grant agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to fund promotion of scheduled passenger air service at the Cape Girardeau Regional Airport.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Guard, second by Mr. Preston. Any discussion? All I can say is it's about time.
I have a
All those-
question on that.
Yes.
Where the 10% match that the city has to come up with, where does that money come from?
I think it's in our operating budget of the airport.
Okay.
Right?
Yes? 10% match, pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we count actually built it into the
Build it in, yeah.
budget.
Okay. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 18-118, ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a special warranty deed to Mason Investments LLC for property located at the southeast corner of Bloomfield Road and South Mount Auburn Road in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Motion by Mr. Preston. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Moore. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 18-119, ordinance approving record plat of Shaley Ground subdivision.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Essex,
Second.
second by Mr. Guard. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Bill number 18-120, an ordinance approving the record plat of crossing at Hopper Road, commercial.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Preston. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kinder. Any discussion?
Please mark my vote an abstention due to financial conflict of interest.
Yes, sir. Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill number 18-121. This relates to the public hearing. An ordinance vacating the interest in the northern 10-foot of a 20-foot wide utility and drainage easement along the south property lines of 10, 11, 16, and 17 Coyote Creek.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Essex and second by Mr. Guard. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There are no appointments tonight. Other business, I would like, is there any thought on the Ivor Square thing? Do we need an official?
Thought they would get the resolution and have it for the next meeting.
That work?
Can do.
Okay, all right. I would say that would be a good plan. I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Preston, and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for being here tonight.